And we are live. What is up, everybody? Aaron the dog back with hopefully what's going to be the tradition for the Contender Series Sunday morning here with the Contender Series Week 2. Going to be a good breakdown coming off a 3 of 4 Week 1. Shout out to Joe Pyfer for getting that big win and now having his first fight in September against Alan Abadovsky. So good chance to get 2 wins in a row there without tipping my hand to that fight. But other than that, got the other 3 fights correct on the card. Had a good UFC card. Had a great LFA card as always. Got 3 breakdowns this week. Gonna start with the Contender Series here. 5 fights last week weren't the most exciting fights. We had good results, but not the most exciting fights. I think this week will be more exciting. I do think there'll be more finishes. I think overall, overall, I'm not going to give it too many thoughts on last night. It's not really what here's for, but tough for Dontel Mays. That was the one that hurt me the most. But I'm going to stand behind my picks always. But otherwise, excited about the Contender Series here. You can definitely check out UFC London thoughts elsewhere. Going to start. Overall, I think this is a very competitive Contender Series. I think they're doing a good job so far through the year. The biggest favorite on the card being a minus 400 on this card, which, is pretty decent, but we'll get to it when we get to it. Starting at 145 pounds. Really, really interesting fight. This one, for me, is one I've definitely gone back and forth on, and very, very interested to see how these guys do in there. Francis Marshall taking on Connor Matthews. So not the most, kind of some generic names, but these guys are very good, very similar types of fighters. 5'8" versus 5'9". Both are primarily grapplers. One Pellegrino MMA, which is Francis Marshall, while the other Lozon MMA and Connor Matthews. So that's kind of interesting. A little tidbit right off the bat there that I found an interesting note for sure. So what Connor Matthews is who I'll start with. The controller here, 5-0. Started his MMA amateur career back in 2011, you'll see. Took off quite a bit of time after 2012, joined the Army, started training again 2018 to 2019 as an amateur. Got a couple finishes, very quick finishes you're seeing, and then also lost to a 5-0 Jimmy Wilson. As a pro, 7-second win over an 0-7 fighter, 57-second win over a 1-8 fighter, a 57-second win over a 2-1 fighter with CES. Back to Cage Titans to face Jay Ellis, who, if you don't know Jay Ellis, just go ahead and check out any of your local favorite Northeastern fighters. They're going to be have a Jay Ellis probably win on there. It was a good Jay Ellis when we were talking about a fighter last week who kind of struggled with Jay Ellis. That's always something you look for, but went in there, dominated him, mostly using the submissions in his as a pro, coming off a 1-2 Josh Hardy win. So just not getting a crazy level of competition. That's definitely my big worry here. It seems to be in good shape. I think he's going to be a little longer, even though he's listed a little shorter than Francis Marshall. But Francis Marshall built very, very solid. Looks like a really good prospect, 23 years old, out of Pellegrino MMA. So Pellegrino versus Lozon, kind of an interesting little tidbit there. He had the decision against Ray Trujillo, which I was able to watch. He was able to handle Ray for the most part. It was good to see him go 15 minutes. It's good to see him go a little bit longer in some of his fights. He's faced a better level of competition as well. Undefeated as an amateur. Since 2018, he stayed pretty busy. 3 fights in 2021. The Mike Taylor fight I was able to watch also. Longer guy, 3-2 as a pro, but 50-3 as an amateur. Grand Rapids able to watch him on the regional scene as well. So kind of a sneaky win there. Getting the finish 4 of his 5 wins by rear naked choke. This is a really, really good fight. I could see these guys going to the ground, mixing it up. For me, I am going to edge with Francis Marshall in this fight. Originally, I was leaning a little towards Connor Matthews, and I will definitely let that be known. I think that this is a really interesting close fight. The unknowns with Connor Matthews do worry me. He has been finished in his amateur career as well in 2018. So for me, I do edge towards Francis. One thing that I found interesting with Francis was I was watching an interview with him um, with, I believe, my MMA news, but not positive on that. I'll make a note for next time. I apologize. But he did say that when he got the call for this fight, he was coming off of the injury. So that is kind of a little bit of a concern for me for sure in this fight. So for me, I'm not going to be betting this one heavily. Officially, my pick, though, will be Francis Marshall. Minus 105, I'm seeing right now. He opened as a slight favorite. A little bit of money's coming on Connor Matthews, but I believe it's about a pick 'em currently on Bovada, which is where I'm able to make wagers currently on this fight. So, should be a very good fight. Looking forward to it. And yeah, I've been back and forth on it. It is one of my, I'd say, less confident fights on the card. But I still think just because the level there, I think it's very good. 5-0, 5-0. Connor Matthews just hasn't gone very long and hasn't faced a very high level competition. So that's why I'm going Francis. Excuse me. Brings us on to the next fight here, the heavyweight fight, which I referred to as I talked about the biggest favorite on this card being the minus 400. This is the fight with the minus 400. I will talk about this one, starting with Danilo Suzart taking on Waldo Kozart Acosta here. Danilo Suzart here, 9-1. Ari's a champion. 3 straight wins. He won that by majority decision against late short notice replacement Benjamin Sahek, who was 4-0. Started out pretty strong with the wrestling, but kind of wore down over time. Danilo, he fights like kind of a bull, very, forward pressure, wide hooks. He doesn't throw the most technical strikes at times. You'll see he's not in the best of shape, but he likes to push his opponent against the cage. He likes to, push the pressure with his strikes. For sure. He last time out actually had an opponent who liked to push him against the cage. So it's interesting to see him have to deal with that early, which he won't have to in this fight. But throws pretty, wild punches. For the most part, not the best level of competition early on in his career. Lost a majority decision in April of 2021. Rattled off 2 knockouts after that, pretty quick knockouts of low-level competition. Benjamin Sahek only 4-0 coming into this. Walter Cortez Acosta, the LFA heavyweight champion, went into Thomas Peterson's backyard in Minnesota. And honestly, beginning of that fight did not start out well at all for Waldo. He backs up too much to the cage for my liking. It's a little bit of a concern for me. We're in the apex in the smaller cage. Danilo's not going to be wanting to strike in space with Waldo. He's going to be pushing for the takedowns, pushing against the cage, even though that's not typically his game. So, I mean, I think that early on, maybe we get a little nervous with Danilo, able to have some success with maybe the cage pressure, maybe even getting the fight to the ground, maybe some Muay Thai strikes. But Waldo is very, very patient and very, very good in space. And he's had a good level of competition. He's been with RUF. He's been with Bellator, a win over Mo DeReese. You like to see 2 finishes and a second and third round finish in his LFA career. He's a minus 400 favorite. So you're paying for it here. He's got a huge advantage on the feet. And I think he's got to know that everybody's going to be trying to take him down, push him against the cage, because that's, kind of where you're going to beat Waldo. Coming off that impressive win over Thomas Peterson, I think Thomas Peterson is a more challenging, better level of competition. So I do like that he's not taking a step down here. I'm going to take Waldo. I'm going to like him to get the finish in this fight as well by TKO. But minus 400 is, it's nerve wracking. It's not. It's a heavyweight fight. We saw this past weekend. I just referred to, and it's the last time I'm going to refer to, but I did bet on Dante Mays, and he was one of my picks. And the week before that, it was Tom Aspinall. So I get there's a couple, extenuating circumstances, but you don't want to pour a ton into a minus 400 at heavyweight. That's even if he's one of my more confident picks at minus 400 plus 280 on Danilo Souza. I'm not saying to bet that, but I think that line's a little bit crazy. So, but I'll take Waldo here. 255 Waldo typically weighs in at. Danilo is definitely around the 260 mark, so he's going to be a little bigger. Next fight here is at 170 pounds. And it is between Billy Goff and Shimon Somartrinsky, formerly on the Contender series when he faced Mike Malott, lost in 39 seconds to lose his perfect record, lost by guillotine. Was not a good look. Went on to the regional scene. After that, got a win. But overall, pretty low level of competition. William Macario was much, much smaller in that fight and just it didn't really sell me a ton on Shimon Sumatrisky. I'll be honest, low level of competition before that. A lot of debuting fighters 0-2, 0-1s, going to a decision in Bellator with Matan Levy over in Israel. Ilya Gletsky getting the knockout there. Again, decent showing on Bellator for sure. But I just have had a lot left of my desire when watching Shimon. Thank you, Aaron. Always look forward to your insight. Appreciate it, Rusty. And then Andy fucking Asawad. Yeah. We all got burned there, but we'll be able to fade him in the future at least. Billy Goff here, 7-2. That's two belts he's holding up with his previous promotion of CES. He was the middleweight and welterweight champion. Took the middleweight title from Justin Sumter, weighing in at around 183 pounds and beating up Sumter on the ground there. Really impressive. And that was a month after he beat Gary Boletto Jr. to win the welterweight title. So 2 knockouts in a row, 3 knockouts overall in a row for him. If you go back to his Cage Titans fight, definitely the dude is looking for high levels of competition where he goes. You go back to his loss against Jonathan Pico. That was a doctor's stoppage on a, unfortunate cut because it wasn't that bad of a cut. It was checked in the round and then he kept going. And Jonathan Pico actually looked quite good. I kind of wish I would have saw more of him. Jonathan Pico's only loss in that 0-1 coming to Ray Cooper to third, by the way. But it was a really good back and forth fight there. And I think an unfortunate stoppage. And then the Cameron Lechinov fight. That's early on in his career. He just got into a little bit of a firefight with Cameron, who, that's what he's going to do. I really like this kid. I liked what I've seen out of him. The fact that he's looking for the tough fights consistently and finishing these tough fights, he does get pretty wild. And that's something I will say. Shimon, it will be interesting to see how the Israeli that's still only 21 years old. I'm not sure why he's rushing back to immediately get another shot in the Contender series like this. First time it looked like it was a little bit too much for him. I just think Billy's going to bring a lot of pressure in this fight. And I think that if we don't have a finish with the Francis and the Francis fight, the first fight, I think Waldo gets a finish. And if Waldo doesn't get the finish, Billy, I'm quite confident brings the fight and gets the finish or gets finished, honestly, in this fight. He does get wild, but I like Billy Goff a lot in this fight. I think he's faced a good level of competition. I think he's going to put a lot of pressure on Trisky here, and I just don't think Shimon is ready for the spot again. So when we look at the odds here, again, decent, but a little bit too heavy, in my opinion, on Billy Goff at minus 260, but he is one of my more confident picks along with Waldo Acosta. So putting those two together and, that is my personal play here. And they're going to be going with my pick in this next fight here at 125 pounds. And that is between Shannon Ross and Vinicius Salvador. And I'll start with Vinicius Salvador. the Brazilian here taking on the fighter of Australia, 33 years old, Shannon Ross, known as the Turkish Delight. Fenomeno, Vinicius Salvador here, 13-4, very good record, typically a bantamweight. This fight is at 125 pounds. Um, he's coming off a win of 0-0 fighter Wallace Vampiro, who Wallace was catching Vinicius quite a bit in that fight, and that's because Vinicius keeps his hands straight down and has some head movement, mostly backing up straight because he's a little bit of a longer, taller guy. I think he's going to do that even more so in this fight because he's dropping the weight. He does get finishes, but I mean, it's over some pretty low levels of competition. When he stepped up against Rafael Costa just walked him down, had success on the feet, and then takedowns. Vinicius had absolutely nothing to offer in those. Jafel Filo as well, ground and pound finish, not a surprise at all. Leg kicks were there to be had in most of his fights as well. He does have long, skinny legs, and Shannon Ross throws a lot of leg kicks. He's very technical as well. I was not impressed with Vinicius from what I saw. 13-4, I get, is a decent record. He is typically a finisher. He likes to get into dogfights. Just technically, I was not sold on what I was seeing. And I think when he stepped up in competition, fighters were able to expose his weaknesses of the ground game, leg kicks, and just able to put him away. I think typically Shannon Ross, I don't think will be an exception here. 13-5. So both these guys have some losses on the record. I do not mind that at all. Last fought in November of 2020. That is my worry with Donovan Freelo going to a decision there. That's a guy who I'd like to see getting finished with UAE Warrior. For that, Steve Urquhart lost to him by rear naked choke in the first round. And that guy now 9-1. I'd like to see him on the Contender series. I had a little bit of trouble getting a fight since then in 2021. Due to COVID, the fight was canceled, and then 2022 fight was moved to Dana White's Contender Series for one, and the road to the UFC for the other, and Sean Echel. So he was looking to get a good fight. Was able to watch his fights back on ACB, his fight in Eternal. It is, again, the takedown defense of Shannon that is a little bit of a concern for me. It's just Vinicius isn't going to do that. Vinicius is pretty much a pure Muay Thai type of striker. Shannon's going to be the one who I think is forcing the takedowns. I think he's going to be the one using leg kicks from distance and then crashing with his good boxing. I think he's got good power as well. Vinicius coming down to 125. I have questions how his chin's going to translate as well as his cardio. We saw in the Steve Nightingale fight, dropped him with a really clean combination and finished him. That was back in 2017. 2018, he had a fight. 2019. 2020, he had 2 fights, and since then he's been off. The time off is a little bit of a concern for me, but he's looking in really good shape. He's been training consistently, and this is his shot at 33 years old at 125. He knows this is his shot. We saw with Chad Hellinger last season against Gafarov. This was a big spot for him, and he came through. I think Shannon Ross really shows out against Vinicius here, who keeps his hands down, as I said. He's able to be taken down, leg kicks. These are all things that Shannon Ross does extremely well. The time off is my only concern, but we've seen other fighters with time off come back looking good. He seems focused. Minus 260 favorite, but I understand the odds here. I think he's going to look very good on Tuesday. So he is the third piece of, the parlay I'm going with as of now, which is Billy Goff, Waldo Acosta, and Shannon Ross. So those 3 I'm putting together on a parlay. Might take a shot on Francis separately, but most likely I'm going to leave that one alone. And I will talk about the main event now, or the featured fight at 155 pounds. So once again, we have one fight at each division here, 155, and this is a hell of a fight, really good fight, in my opinion. Charlie Campbell taking on Mr. Chris Duncan, making his debut at 155. So that is definitely Interesting note here: Charlie Campbell out of Serra-Longo in New Jersey, Bellator veteran as well. I'll start with Chris Duncan, the problem. 8-1 now for the Scottish fighter here, 29 years old, coming off of a win at it was at in February at UFL, which is Ultimate Fight League, I believe, 8 against a 6-4 Jonathan Carlos. Went to a decision there. I mean, it was good enough coming off the Vladislav Borishev fight on the Contender Series. Really good first round. Forced the takedowns, got a little bit tired, and then by the second round, got caught and put away pretty cleanly by Vladishev. Slavakos, nothing, no shame there. Very good fighter. Typically, Chris Duncan, though, is looking to stand and bang. A lot of finishes in his career, most of them coming by KO. Decent level of competition towards the last end. Emic Furtado on Bellator, very good showing there. But yeah, I mean, Charlie Campbell is he's a warrior, man. Charlie the Cannibal Campbell out of a wrestling gym, but he's primarily a striker. In Serra-Longo, 27 years old, 6 foot tall, 72-inch reach, so he's a good size for 155. I think he's just maturing more and more as he's growing in his career. He took on Guillermo dos Santos in the last fight. The dude missed weight by 8 pounds, and Charlie Campbell said, "Let's go." Like I love that attitude. Finished him in the first round. Dos Santos tried to take him down. He tried to lay on him. He tried everything he could. Leg kicks and then a beautiful combination to put him away. Really crisp boxing. Same deal with the Vadim Ogar fight. The fight before with CFFC. Both his fights with CFFC. His last two. And I mean he just took Vadim, into the deep water and put him away in the second round. Leg kicks with Bellator were his story. The Dung fight was definitely very impressive. Dung was, landing some very good ones. And then Charlie was like, the best defense for a leg kick is to throw it back and really learn from that fight, put him away in the second round. Beautiful finish there. Did the same thing with Nick Guletti in their fight, put him away with the leg kicks and the punches on the ground. This guy's really, really good. He is a big, solid 155er. For me, Chris Duncan, not going to know what he looks like at 155. He could have some good size. And they could kind of look to stand and bang here. Chris Duncan can put away, has the power to do so, but I'm going with Charlie Campbell in this spot. This was, a spot that I was thinking about going with another dog to go with Francis Marshall, but I like Charlie Campbell, man. I like his pace. I like his size. I like his skill set. I think he's still showing how good he is. And for me, Chris Duncan has not fought at 155. I think this is a little bit of a rushed move, similar to the other returning guy on the Contender Series for this card, Shimon. So yeah, it's kind of just I'm fading the two returning Contender Series guys who are coming off losses, and I got Charlie Campbell. You can get him at a real nice price right now of -150. I will bet that straight. I do think he's able to get the finish as well. So for me, when I look at the card, top to bottom, I think it's a very competitive card. And I'll very quickly give my quick picks and thoughts on final thoughts, and then we'll say goodbye for today. But thank you for everybody who's joined me. Appreciate you, Kelly. Appreciate you, Rusty, Glove Touch, everybody else who's joined. Hope that this is another successful week of the Contender Series. We've been killing it. But at 145, Francis Marshall and Connor Matthews, very good fight. I'm edging with Francis Marshall as of now, and I'll consider betting if I can get some plus money on it. Could be a decision, but both guys very high level grapplers. Pellegrino versus Lozon. Next, Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Danilo Souza. I'm worried a little bit about Waldo getting stuck against the cage, getting trapped, and not, being a little bit too patient with this being a 3-round fight and not 5 rounds in the smaller octagon. But I think Waldo's just much, much better. I think Danilo leaves himself open on some of these wild strikes, and Waldo puts him away by TKO. So I got Waldo there. Billy Goff versus Shimon Somotrisky. I've got Billy Goff here. I like his momentum he's on right now. I like the level of competition he's faced. He gets a little bit wild, but I think the pressure could really burst Shimon here, who looked pretty overwhelmed in his first Contender Series bout, albeit only 39 seconds. Next fight, second from the top, Shannon Ross versus Vinicius Salvador. I got Shannon Ross all day here. Shannon Ross should light him up with the leg kicks. I think the boxing, get in and out, even work the takedowns if he has to. Vinicius has to make this a dogfight and make it really, sloppy. But I just don't like Vinicius making the trip down to 125. I don't think he's very impressive with his hand down defense. And Shannon Ross being off for 2 years, a little worried, but I'm going to rock with it. Main event or featured fight, whatever you want to call it, Charlie Campbell, Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan making his 155 debut here. I like Charlie Campbell, steady as he goes, leg kicks, good boxing, good wrestling defense as well. And Chris Duncan can bang, but I don't like him making this trip to 155 off a 170 decision off a low level opponent. So those are my picks, and that's going to do it for the breakdown here. I want to thank everybody for joining me. UFC show tomorrow, LFA show most likely on Tuesday, and that's going to do it. I'll add my PFL quick picks to the UFC video tomorrow. I'm not doing a video on the PFL. At this point, the PFL season, I do not believe is worth a full-time commitment of making a full video. So I'll look into the fights. I'll obviously familiar. I'll do some tape, but it's going to be some quick picks at the end of the UFC video tomorrow. I will be on with Lewis of Northern MMA. He will be back. So let's do it. See you guys tomorrow around 3 p.m. Eastern time. Good luck with your Contender Series bets. Baby Yoda, appreciate it, man. 3 of 4 last week. Let's go a clean sweep 5 of 5 this week. But I like the middle 3 for my parlay, and then I like Charlie Campbell as a separate bet on his own at -150. Take care, everybody. Keep taking care of each other. Peace.